Okay, in this video tutorial I'm going to talk about eye rigs and Adobe Animate, and specifically when we need to use masks to create eye shapes that are a little bit one level more complicated than what I've showed in the past video here. And so in this example I have two versions. So we have an eye, we have the pupil, and then we kind of have the eye white, which I painted yellow right here. And so we kind of need to mask things out in order to kind of create that eye blink right there. Similarly, if your eye rig, if you have the style eye right here, the same technique right here is going to be your best option in my opinion. So let's get this started. So I'm going to go File, New, and that looks good, 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. And just force a habit. So in this first layer, I like to kind of extend this out to frame 10 or so at the beginning. So you just press this insert frame or F5. Keep in mind that I'm in a version of the basic workspace right here, so that's why these three buttons are right here. And so to get started with that first eye shape I was showing, I want to show a different version of, or a different technique you can use to draw your lines right here. So in the past I've shown the pen tool, the brush tool, and the pencil tool, but we also have the line tool right here, which is really similar in a lot of ways to the pen tool. So to draw this out, I kind of have like a blue stroke right there. So this is a stroke pen. And so I draw, and I'm going to draw that first eye shape, and each time I click, it kind of snaps automatically as long as I keep my cursor close to where it's supposed to be. And then bring it back to the beginning and it'll snap. So that doesn't look right, right? So I just need to go up to the selection tool right here, or press V. And when I hover my cursor over it, I have that little curve underneath it. And so if I just click and hold, I can pretty quickly make the adjustments I need to this eye shape right here. And similar to the pen tool, if I press A or go up here to subselection, I can click on this and I can find my anchor points. And so eventually when I animate this, I'm going to like click on an anchor point and bring it down like that. That's going to be the technique that I use. And so I don't know if I really even want or need two anchor points right here. You can keep two anchor points if you prefer, but I'm just going to go to the pen tool and go down to delete anchor point, or press minus, delete that anchor point, go back up to the selection tool, click on this anchor point, and adjust the Beziers so that that looks right. And so now when I animate, I can just click on this one anchor point and bring it down, and that'll be easier to deal with. Okay, so next up, I want to create a fill for this. So I'm going to use the paint bucket tool, but I think I would rather this have like a yellow eye or something. So I'm just going to fill that in. And now we're ready to get started here. I'm going to first call this eye blink in all caps, and I'll call this eye blink 1. And so as I was saying at the beginning of the tutorial here, we're going to have to convert this into a symbol, jump into the symbol, and kind of create the animation, and then jump back out. So I'm going to select the whole eye like that, or you can just click right here on the first keyframe right there, and it'll automatically select everything for you. Then I right click and go down to convert to symbol right here. And you need to right click on top of the drawing and not over the timeline. So right click right here, convert to symbol, and I'll call this eye blank 1. And it was a graphic symbol. That's the kind of symbol you want to use, and that should be your default right there, most likely. And so in order to get to the symbol, I need to double click on it right here. So I double click, and I can tell that I've gone into the symbol right here because it's I have this arrow right here, and I have the symbol icon right here. So if I want to go back to my main timeline, I just press this back button, and I'm back into my main timeline. If I want to jump back into the symbol, just double click right here, and I'm back in. So I'm going to, let's start by creating 7, I'm going to give myself 7 frames. So I'm going to take my cursor and click right here in the timeline, and then I'm going to press this button to insert frame or extend the keyframe. You can also press F5 for that. And so I have this one layer, and I'm just going to call this eye main right here. And we're going to have to use a masking technique here, because one thing I want to do is I'm going to press the plus button right here, create a new layer, and then I'm going to give my character an iris, and I'll hold shift so that it becomes a circle right here. And I want to change this color I'll make this red. Oops, first I have to select it. And so you can see that I have this iris right here, but then the eyelid is, they're overlapping in a strange way. And so I'm going to need to make a mask here. And masking in Adobe Animate doesn't work quite the way I wish it would. And that's why we have to kind of jump into this symbol and kind of treat it like a pre-comp if you're familiar with After Effects and that concept. And so right here, what we're going to have to end up doing, just to kind of give you a flash forward on what we're doing here, is I'm going to put the eye main on top eventually. And then I right click right here and go down to mask right there. And you can see it kind of masks out that eye. And we're going to have a duplicate underneath and kind of do some things here to kind of get this to work the way we want it to here. But we'll get there, and this is actually not too bad. So the eye main right here, make sure that your eye main layer is, you just drag it and put it on top, and then the iris is underneath right here. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to animate the eye blink using this layer right here. And so I'm just going to drag my playhead to keyframe 2, frame 2, and then I'm going to insert a keyframe right here. And now I'm going to press A or go to the subselection tool, click on here, and I'm going to start animating my eye blink. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit and then adjust these Beziers however I need, so that, you know, I'm not going to go for perfection here since I'm just trying to demonstrate the technique here. So I'm going to go to frame 3, same thing, insert a keyframe, and I'm just kind of creating different shapes, and I'm kind of pretending that this character's kind of top eyelid is doing all the work and the bottom eyelid's staying the same here, just to kind of keep this tutorial speedy here. So we're on frame 3, good enough. I'm going to click right here, insert another keyframe, and make another version. Oops. And so remember, I'm in the subselection tool, or A, and I'm just clicking on these anchor points, and then I'm finding the Beziers and clicking and dragging right here. You hypothetically, if you don't like the pen tool and all of this, you could technically go in with the pencil tool and redraw this every time. And that could be a really good technique if you want something that looks more hand-drawn and kind of has more of an organic feel. So kind of keep that in mind right here. You don't have to be doing this exactly the way I'm doing it right here. You could be like going through here, creating a new empty drawing by clicking on Insert Blank Keyframe, and then redrawing the shape each time. And then you'll get like a much more organic look for that. But again, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to kind of keep going this way, where I'm going to go to this next frame, insert a keyframe. And remember, when you insert a keyframe, it keeps your previous drawing and makes a new version of it, or a copy of it. And blank keyframe is like if you gave yourself a new sheet of paper. And again, I'm using just the regular old keyframe. So I'm going to make one last one where it's just basically closed down here. Okay, so we kind of have all these shapes right there. And you know, if you want another shape too, where you want like a totally closed, for instance, I could again click right here and go all the way down and kind of snap it together here. And there we go. So we got an eye closed. And I guess we have one more frame to work with right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this original frame, press Command C, or you can go to Edit and then Copy. And I'm going to go to the last frame, and I'm going to go not Command V, but Shift Command V, or you can go Edit, Paste in Place. And that's just going to paste it in the exact location where it was before. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to give my character like a wide eye version right here, since I'm viewing this as kind of like a replacement animation technique. Oh, whoops, I messed that up. Before I did that, I needed to insert a blank keyframe. So I messed that up. So insert blank keyframe. Go back to the original frame, click right here to select the whole thing, Command C, go right here into my blank keyframe, the empty sheet of paper, Shift Command V, so I pasted in place, and so now I'm going to just give myself a wide eye version here. Oops. Okay, so we have all that right there. And so you might ask yourself, why did this guy just create this animation before doing the mask technique? And the reason I did that, and is something that's kind of annoying about Adobe Animate, is once I create this mask by right-clicking and mask, it locks the layers right here. And so you're kind of stuck with whatever you have at that point. So I wouldn't have been able to kind of go through and create those 7 keyframes unless I waited to do the mask. So that's the reason I'm waiting to do the mask right there. So I'm going to press Edit Undo just to kind of get back to where we were here. And so if your character doesn't have outlines like mine does, this is going to be a couple steps simpler, but it's really not a big deal. So if we pretend for a second that this didn't have outlines, all I would need to do is right click and then mask. And then with this eye main right there, and remember the eye main should be on top, the iris should be on the bottom, is I'm going to right click on this and duplicate the layer, and it has all the animation embedded into it. I'm going to right click and release the mask, unlock it, and then drag it all the way at the bottom. Oh, this is going to make me drag these towards the top instead. And so you can see I have the eye blank, and then I have the eye color underneath. And you can kind of see right here, if I didn't have the outlines, I'd be done with it, you know. And so since I have the outlines, there's just one more step that I need to do right here. And what that is I'm going to do the same thing again. Take the eye main, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate it, put it on, you know, it's going to be on the top. I'm going to release the mask, and then I'm just going to go through, I need to unlock it here, and by pressing right there. And I just need to go through frame by frame and delete the eye yellow right here. And so now, since I have this outline right here, it helps that kind of overlay right there, because without it, if I hide it, you can see that stroke got cut thin right there. So if I turn the visibility back on, we've got a fully functional eye with a lot of different shapes right here. And so for your character animations, I might recommend taking this iris and give yourself a few different options right here where, you know, the iris is, the iris is moved left to right, and you're gonna have to unlock it. So this is what I was talking about with the masks. Like, I can't select the iris and move it because the mask is turned on right now. So that's why I recommend doing all your animation and then, or giving yourself all your keyframes, and then kind of go through this masking process right here. So let's just say, for sake of argument, that this is all the eye shapes that I need right here, and then I'm done, and I don't need my character to look left or right or give myself any other options beyond these 7. I'm going to press the back button right here, and we're back to the main timeline right here, and you can see the animation comes through. I'm going to loop this, so I'm going to press the loop button. When you press the loop button, this little blue bar comes up, and so I just extend it, so I extend the range. And that's what it looks like, right? And remember, I animated it down and then gave myself kind of a wide eye right there, and that's frame 7, and now we're kind of looping and repeating right here. And so I'm going to click on this right here. And sorry, I clicked right here, but I needed to click right here on my symbol. And if I go over to properties, you can kind of see the looping options right here. And so remember, this button right here is why it was looping right here, is because this button right here was turned on. And what I want to do is I want this to be a replacement animation where I can kind of choose from the library of keyframes that I've created for myself. So what I'm going to do is, instead of messing with these buttons down here, or sorry, these buttons right here, I'm going to mess with this button right here and go to Frame Picker. You should also be able to pull up a Frame Picker panel over here. And if you don't see the Frame Picker panel in your panel window, that's pretty likely. You know, so you just go to Window and you can find it. I always have trouble finding it. You're probably going to find it before I do. Let's see here. It is in here. Oh, right, it's right there. So frame picker, and if you don't, so you can always pull it up by go window frame picker right there. And so with the frame picker window, our panel that I have right here, we have the option to have things loop, play once, or single frame. And what I prefer is single frame right here. So I'm going to click on single frame. And so now when I press play, nothing happens, right? But now, this is the fun part with this, is let's say that our character is staring straight forward for the first 10 frames, and then I want to start an eye blink at frame 11. So I'm going to insert a keyframe, and maybe I extend it. Let's just say I want to animate in 2, so I extend it, so it lasts 2 frames right here. And I click right here, and I look over to my frame picker panel, and I've got those keyframes that I created for myself. So I just click right here, and we got a replacement animation going here, right? So I'm just going to click right here, create a new keyframe, click right here to extend it, and then click on the keyframe to get back to the frame picker. You can see if I click off, the frame picker shows up empty. So if the frame picker shows up empty for you, just make sure you click on the keyframe that you want right there, replacement. And also remember you can Command C. Oops. So I can also copy and paste existing frames right here if I want to kind of bring things back. So Command C, insert keyframe, extend, Command V. So, Shift Command V. Yeah, be sure to do Shift Command V if you're doing that. But you can see right here that I'm able to kind of choose my timing now, whereas before with the play once you don't have a lot of control, right? And something else I can do is I can, let's just say that before my character's eye blinks, their eye gets wide for a moment. Remember I created that keyframe right there. I can just go right here, insert keyframe, and click on it and choose the wide eye, insert keyframe, insert the original, and let's extend this last keyframe just to kind of finish off this animation. And so now, right, so we're able to kind of choose the timing, and if I give myself a lot of different eye shapes to choose from in my library right here, so if I click on this and I have versions where the eye is looking left, looking right, I can just choose from this library and use replacement animation during my animation process. And so this is a little bit of extra setup that happens here during this phase with the symbol and all that. But then when it comes time to animate, as long as I just go up here to my frame picker and go to single frame and then select the keyframes that I want to use, there's like a nice little replacement animation system that I can implement here. And so that's how I use it for this eye technique. And in order to create this style of eye, it's going to be basically the same thing. So if you feel like you understand it and you're ready to go, you can kind of end the tutorial here. But before I leave here, I'm going to specifically show how to create this eye shape as well. But it's going to be a really similar system here. So I'm just going to go File, New, and HD 24, Create, Fit in Window. And so to start this shape, I'm just going to use the ellipse tool to kind of get started. Extend the keyframe. And so I'm just going to select it by clicking right here, right click, and convert to symbol. I'm going to call that eye blank 2. And remember, this is a graphic symbol that I'm using right here. And so now I'm just going to go in here, double click, and now we're in the symbol. And let's do a similar thing where I'm going to give myself 7 frames to work with here. And so I have the eye main right here, and excuse me, I'm going to press the plus button to create a new layer, and I'm going to create the eyelid. And so for this, we're going to do the same masking technique. So I'm going to go down here, and I am just going to use the rectangle tool. Oops. and creates that. Change the color by selecting right here. Go over to Fill and Properties, and I'll change this to a light blue. Okay, so remember we're going to use the masking technique right here. And I'm going to create the animation first before I mask, because if I right click on that and then mask, oops, I have my layers mixed up. Let's do it the other way. I need the eye main on top of the eyelid. I'm going to right click and mask. You can see this is locked right here, and I can't, it just gets harder to manipulate because right here it all kind of gets grouped into one object, and it gets pretty sloppy right here. And so, and you can see it's locked right there. So this is why I'm just pressing edit undo right now to kind of undo what I was showing right there. That is why it is important to kind of create the animation first, and then once you feel like you have everything, then we'll go through and create the masks. So I have this up here. I'm just going to go ahead and convert my eyelid to a symbol right here. So I'm going to click right there on the first keyframe, right click on the canvas, convert to symbol, eyelid 1, it's a graphic symbol. And I need one more layer where I need the iris in here. So I'm going to go right here, press plus to give myself a new layer. And I'm going to give myself a rectangular iris just for fun. So, and I'm just going to click on that. Okay, so let's hide the iris just for now. And so I have the eye main, I have the eyelid right here. And so the animation for the eye blank for this style is I'm just going to take this eyelid and create different frames of it coming down. And I'm going to press Q for free transform. All right, here we go. So first frame will be like this, as if it's fully open. Next frame, and I'm on the eyelid right here. I'm animating the eyelid. So insert a keyframe, bring it down, insert a new keyframe, bring it down, and just rinse and repeat here. Okay, so we have kind of the whole drawbridge thing happening right here. And so now we're kind of ready to get going on this. So let's just say that's all I need right here, and my iris is going to stay the same through that whole process. You know, you might want to create a few different keyframe versions where the iris is in different locations right here. But let's see here. So we go to the eye main, right click, and mask it. So you can see there's nothing at first, then we have that. So that looks right. So now for the eye main, I'm going to right click and duplicate it if I can. Let's see here. There we go, right click, duplicate layers. And for this one, I'm going to release the mask. So I'm going to right click right on the name, release the mask, and all right, I have to select these two, hold shift, and then drag it above. And so now I have the eyelid beneath it that whole time. But you can see there's two problems. One is the iris is on top of the eyelid, and the second is, if we zoom in on this, oops, too much, the stroke on the outside changes a little bit. And so this is another example of if you don't have a stroke on your character's eye, this will just remove one step from the process for you. So for the iris, let's just drag this down. And it should, it doesn't need to be masked or anything, it can just be underneath. So, whoops, sorry, I'm going to edit undo because I kind of went through that too quick. So for the iris, it doesn't need to be part of the mask, and so I can just drag it all the way to the bottom, right here, and then I'm just going to click the eye main that's showing up right there, and then drag that to the bottom. Just so we have the eye main, the eyelid, iris, and then that. And so now we just need the stroke fixed on the top. And so I am going to, again, go to the eye main and right click, and duplicate up here, right click, release the mask, and I'm going to do the selection tool. Oops, oh, it's locked. So make sure it's unlocked and use the selection tool and just click the middle. Don't get the outside stroke right there, but just click on the middle right there and press delete. And so now we kind of have all of our eye shapes right there that we need. And right, so this eye main right here is the it's just the circle, and remember that the eyelid in this version is doing all the work for us right here. Okay, and so we have our eye blink, and if you want more eye shapes, you should just kind of go through and give yourself more keyframes. So I'm just going to give an example. Let's just say that I want a frame where the character is looking screen left. I'm going to go to the iris, create a new keyframe, and then just drag that over a little bit, and then extend that keyframe. And I'm going to extend these two keyframes right here. And let's just say I want the eye to be totally open during that phase. So I can go back to this first keyframe. I'm going to have to unlock it. And that's the whole thing with a mask, which is really annoying. And select that eyelid, the drawbridge all the way up. Command C. Create a new blank keyframe. Shift Command V to paste it in place. And now if I lock it, we've reinstituted the mask. And so now I have an eye shape where my character is looking a little bit screen left, right? And etc. You just kind of keep making different eye shapes and all the different eye shapes that you might possibly need for your animation. So we've got all of our eye shapes. We're going to go back to the main timeline right here. And let me extend this. So similar before, it's just going to play on a loop by default of all the different eye shapes that I was making right there. And remember what I prefer to do, and you have whatever option you want to do in this, but what I prefer to do is I click on this, go over to the frame picker, and it's set to loop by default, but I prefer single frame right here. So in this example, the character is holding eye contact for a minute right there, and we can insert a new keyframe by clicking right here, and we can start doing the replacement animation technique to bring our animation to fruition right here. And so I'm just going to speed through this. Right, and so we can just kind of go through and pick all the different eye shapes that we've selected on our menu. Remember that the frame picker panel will appear empty until you click on the keyframe right there of the specific symbol, right? And so yes, this is one technique you can use for eye blinks, and this technique is necessary if you require masking for creating your eye shape. If your eye shape is simpler and doesn't require masking, then you don't necessarily need to use this system. And it's the best solution that I'm aware of in Adobe Animate. Again, if you kind of proceed in the future to programs like Toon Boom Harmony and things like that, you can still use masking and all that, but you don't necessarily need to jump into symbols and use replacement animation. There's going to be a little bit more flexibility there. All right.